Hello, it is Diane with Diane's Blue Hearts and Butterflies.com, and this is part of the Cheerful Daisies um, bundle series that I'm doing. And the Cheerful Daisies was something that I first fell in love with and noticed in the 2023-24 annual catalog. And this card I saw, and I'm sorry if I do not pronounce the name right, on Narelle Farugia. I found it through Pinterest, but it was, I went and looked and found her name so that I could state what it was, to give credit, because I didn't come up with it, but I just really loved the card. I did use things that, papers and stuff that I had and everything, but the Cheerful Daisies bundle is just a really great variety of daisies and die cuts and everything, so that you can create so many different looking projects. And this one is going to be having the coloring with the Stampin' Blends and working with some of the punches too. So the paper that I used is from the Inked Botanicals. There were a lot of great colors and images in this pack, and I went with some of the more crushed curry pieces that I thought went with the pecan pie and could bring the one of the new colors in. So I'm using that paper, and then I'm also using some opal rounds. I'm not sure if they're current or if they're retired. They're just some that I still had for this card. So let me get out the stuff that I used. I'm gonna go over the dimensions here, but if you do check out my blog over at www.dianesblueheartsandbutterflies.com, it will, the measurements and everything will be listed over there, as well as the papers and inks and the people's names that I got the idea from, and other projects using the Cheerful Daisies. So if you would like, you could go over there to check those out. But I am going to go through him with these measurements here. I did use a thick basic white cardstock. This is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, which is the middle, the half, and then I fold that over and use my bone folder to burnish that edge to give it a good crisp crease. Then I have these two pieces. This is from some of that designer series paper. This is 1 3/4 inches wide, or in height, and then one of them is 4 inches and the other one is 5 inches, and those are going to make the strips. There is also a piece of basic white cardstock that's a normal layer. It's 5 1/4 by 4, and we're going to kind of pop this up just to give a little bit more dimension to the front of the card. Then I have a scrap piece of white for a label to do the sentiment. I have this piece of pecan pie cardstock. It is 6.5 by 1.5, or by one half. Sorry, I couldn't say that correctly. And this is going to be kind of creating a look around the front of the card. Then I have a strip of just some scrap basic white cardstock that we're going to be stamping the flowers and leaves on. And then I have a piece, this one is about 13 inches of the linen thread to create a bow to go on the front. and like I said before, the opal rounds that we'll be using. So let me set this off to the side. I did go ahead and do some things ahead of time, but I did want to show how I stamped and did some of these. And then the dies, they do cut the outer, around the outside edge of these stamps. So I used the Memento Tuxedo Black for the 2 large flowers and a small flower. And this is the outline detail flower, not the solid background full flower. So there's one. I need 2 of the large. And 1 of the small. Sometimes I get a little crazy with inking it up and get a little bit too much in a spot. So just want to make sure that the top of the image is inked. And then I used pecan pie to stamp the centers, and then I also went over it, or you could go over it with a dauber to kind of fill it in a little better. There's a center for the large flower and a center for the smaller flower. Trying to get this lined up in here. Sometimes I do well and sometimes I do not, but that's okay. That's what it's all about. And then the small one. And this is a new color, pecan pie. And this is a dauber. You just kind of take it, and you wanted to get some of that darker, harsh part off before you put it down. And I'm just kind of putting it down there and rubbing a little bit. If you don't even want to stamp and you just want to rub, that's fine too. But this, I wanted to get some of that little detail in there. And then the leaves, it's a solid leaf stamp, and for this card I wanted to have some darker leaves and some lighter leaves. So basically I took and inked up the stamp, and I stamped once and then another time. And you leave a little bit of space because there is a die that cuts these apart, and you just need to have enough room to cut all these pieces out. And so I just kind of did them alternating. You need 7 of these leaves. And then, just for speeding things up, I went ahead and cut a bunch of this stuff apart and everything to speed some things up. I do want to show some of this, what to do. But the coloring on here, I just used the Stampin' Blends, the Daffodil Dark and Light. And I was watching a demonstrator or somebody else on YouTube before, and they mentioned, and it's released, there we go, the darker one. If you'll start there, kind of figuring out where the darker places are on these petals, you can, I'm using the kind of bullet end to, and it's really great with the stamps because they kind of show you where those creasing kind of places are, that you can put some of that darker color. And I'm using the bullet end of it first, and then you can always come back with the other end when you start doing more of the blending. This is just trying to create some of those darker areas that you want on your petals. So I'm doing that there. This is the dark. And then I'm taking the brush end on the light and I'm just going over the whole entire petal. Kind of blending those dark areas a little bit. Blending in with them. And these have a brush end, so it's like a paintbrush. It is not like a crayon. That bullet end is more like the crayon. So you really just want to go in one direction with a smooth stroke, kind of on the edge, not really pushing down with the tip. When you do that, it kind of messes up that brush end. I've had these being used in my classes, and sometimes people don't follow the directions. So that's how some of mine have gotten kind of split, or I don't know what else to call it. It's just not as smooth as it once was. And I'm just trying to kind of add some more right there where those darker areas are. And if it's not as dark as you want, you can go back over it with the dark and then come back and blend again. The Stampin' Blends are an alcohol-based marker, so they you would not color on the stamps with these. These are not the dye-based, water dye-based ones. I'm going to take the brush end of this dark one and just kind of come back in some of those areas to darken that up a little bit. Add a little bit of darker. And then you use the Memento Tuxedo Black for coloring with these. Otherwise, if you use a StazOn, it will smear, because they're both kind of have an alcohol base, so it wouldn't stay in place as well. And then I'm just going to kind of blend that again with the lighter color, blending that dark into the light to kind of soften up that edge that I just created with the darker one. Turn that again. And then I've already colored other ones so that I can save time. But I did want to show another product that I really love, and a lot of other people do too, and that's the Week of Stella pen. To give it a little bit of a sparkle and shine, let me see if I could show it on camera. It's just a kind of a glittery pen, and it adds just a sparkle to these. I'm not sure if the light's catching right for the camera, but hopefully. And basically it's just it has kind of sparkly liquid in here. If these are getting a little bit dry, you can open all this up and unscrew it all, put a little bit of the rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol in there, the clear, not the green, and shake it up, and it'll kind of rejuvenate it a little bit. And you can just take this, you don't need much. I didn't even squeeze it this time. The last time I used it, I squeezed it and it got up in the brush, and you really just don't need a lot to put on the petals to give it that little bit of sparkle shine. Highlight. So that's those. Then I was going to show, I used my detailed trio punch, which is a corner rounding punch that I had. This is retired, but if you have any other punch that has kind of a round edge on it, you can do the same type of thing, but basically you're just wanting to round off this. If you're using one that has just a rounded edge, you don't want to stick it in this way because it's going to cut whatever that image is out. But you can skip and go down in and just through that portion that is rounded. This one I'm going to put through here, but you can kind of, I hope you can kind of see it down in here. I'm just pushing it in so that the two corners can be seen, and I'm just kind of judging where I want it, and then I am just kind of rounding off that edge just a little bit. If it's a little bit uneven, you could take your scissors and round it up a little more or whatever. And then you're going to do that on both of the ends of that pecan strip, because we're going to create kind of a little sort of a belly band on the card. So let me get that out of the way. You're also going to be running linen thread through it, so you're going to want to use a hole punch. This is one that I have. You can use whatever. It's not a big one like the notebook hole punch, it's a smaller one. You might also be able to just use your piercing tool and your Stampin' Pierce mat to just punch a hole through it. So, and mine's off-centered. It's homemade. That's what we got to remember, right? You try to line it up and get it centered as much as you can. And then you have this piece. So there's that part. Get that out of the way. And then on this piece, you can use it as just a single bow. I really kind of like the looks of double, or no, actually this one. It is this piece. Never mind. Now that I'm thinking about it, I created another little bow, but I didn't need to. I forgot. This is what goes through the little pumpkin pie piece. Oh, and this is about, like I said, 13 inches. So let's get this out here, all these pieces. And here is our cardstock base. Again, while your stamps are out, don't forget to stamp your envelope so that you can have something. You can do it on the flap. You could also use designer series paper on the flap to create another pretty piece on the back. Then we're going to take this white piece. We're going to use dimensionals. If you want to stick it straight down, that's fine. This just gave it a little bit added dimension to the front of the card. Come on. Sticking to my fingers. There. There we go. I put quite a few. Oh, that one got off the edge. Back up. There. Peel the backings. If you want to do this after you've put everything together, that's fine too. But since I'm putting dimensionals behind almost all the layers, I just thought I could. It's just easy, just as easy to do it here. Now this is a normal size layer, so it's going to have a small border around it. So there's that piece. Then the longer, the 5-inch piece of the designer series paper is the one that we're going to line up over this. And basically you're just going to kind of fold over the edge. You don't want it to be too tight, but you don't want to have it be real loose either. Oh, gotta get my fingernail under there. Maybe the take your pick tool could help me here. There we go. And just fold that end over on both sides. Oh, it moved on me. Gotta get that straightened up again. You don't want it too tight that it buckles the paper. So you might need to use your fingernail to kind of push back on it a little bit. And this is where the linen thread comes in. You're going to feed it through the hole on one side and then the hole on this side. And then I tied my bow over on this side. It's up to you where you want to tie your bow. Whichever side you're going to tie that bow on, you're going to want to make sure you have enough. And this is where the kits are different from just making it, because just making it, I would probably have left it on the roll so that I'd have enough extra to kind of fiddle with it a little bit. Okay. Might want to use 15 in. Or you may want to just tie a knot. Let's do, that's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to tie a knot. And then if you want to do a faux bow, you can do that too. You don't want to pull it too tight so that it buckles your paper, but you want it to be snug enough that it's not hanging loose either. Tie a knot. I know that you probably cannot see what I'm doing with my fingers because my hand's in the way. A little bit snug again. All right. I'm going to leave it that way. Pull these ends down through here, just so that they lay flat. Okay. And then I already stamped my message on the strip of white, but I think I'm going to do kind of a different end on here. Or maybe I'll just take and roughen up the edge. I can make this a little shorter though. Get it a little bit closer down here. And you can just take, I would use probably the inner part of the scissors to kind of roughen up the edge. And it's basically running the cardstock straight against the scissor edge, and it kind of shreds that end a bit to give it a weathered look. And if you wanted to, you could take that pecan pie dauber and go around the edge to kind of give it another little bit of a worn, aged look. And helps it to stand out a little better too. Okay, so now we're going to need to just kind of lay this out so that we know about where these layers need to be placed so that they're evenly spaced. And then you're going to put dimensionals, like I said again, on the back. Peel those backings off. And then kind of, stop. Kind of space it out. Side to side, top to bottom. Creating a little bit of a border there. And then do this next one. There and here. Pull these off. Oh, stop. And again, look to see about your small border. It's created side to side, top to bottom, creating that little bit of extra space there. And then I'm going to place, using the dimensional, oh, I got another base or another backing there. Doing dimensionals on this flower, and or I think I'll do it on all of them, but you don't want to put too many because we have leaves that we're going to need to shove in along there. So this one is going to go up here. You just want to make sure that you're not going outside of your card. If you go outside that layer, it's fine, but you really don't want to go outside of the card. And you may want to stay a little bit in for the designer series paper because your leaves are going to be going off back behind here too. And then the little one, pop that up kind of over here. And here's my other big flower. This one's going to go on the lower one off to the left because my words, my sentiment strip will be going this way. So I'm going to want to put this one kind of right in here. And then on this one, I'm going to have it sticking with a glue dot on the flower, but over here, since the flower is raised, I need a dimensional on that side. And then get a glue dot for this other side. Put that kind of over where my bow is not going to be in the way. I did tie kind of a double bow earlier with 2 strands of the linen thread. So I can actually put that over here with this. And then trim up some of these little pieces here. Might want to turn it so that it's not covering the sentiment. Those out of the way. Then we'll start mixing in our leaves with the glue dots. I'm going to put those up towards the where it hooks on to the flower. Let's see. Let me start with a lighter shade one, and I can stamp or stick two other darker ones on top. I'm wanting to put this kind of like right in here. Have one go up this way. And another dark one. And I'll put that one over here. And I'm going to do got a dark and a light and a dark and a light. Okay. Put one out here. And a lighter one. When it comes to the other embellishments that you use, the gems, dots, rounds, whatever, you can use rhinestones, pearls, just about anything that you would like, whatever you have. There's that one, and then the last one. Put that one kind of down here. So there's that. And then get this stuff out of the way here. Let's use this. One up here. I'm going to put one, where do I want that other one? And over here, and I get a larger one. I'm going to put that one over here. There we go. And so that is this card. So you can stamp a sentiment, stamp flowers on the envelope, all that to finalize it, but this is the basic kind of outline. I really like the dimension of the card. I appreciate you sharing your time with me, and again, I hope that you will share these videos with your friends that enjoy stamping and card making and other types of paper crafting projects. If you do like these videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell icon. You'll be notified when I upload new videos. I do that usually about once a month. That coincides with my in-person card class. I appreciate those that support me, and don't forget to check out the blog at www.dianesblueheartsandbutterflies.com. I have a list of the dimensions or the measurements for everything, the products I used, the giving credit to the people that I get ideas from, and sharing other ideas. And so I hope that you will go check that out. And if you want any of those products and you don't have a demonstrator, I hope that you'll shop with me so that you can get those products to do these projects. And thank you for sharing your time with me.